Hello, I will talk about one study that we carried together with colleagues from Finland and Germany, where we wanted to test timing in autistic individuals and typically developing individuals across different timing paradigms. It has been shown in many previous studies that time processing is atypical in autistic individuals across different modalities, visual, motor, auditory, as well as across different timing paradigms, such as duration perception or event timing, when you compare whether two different events are happening at the same time or not, and across different time scales, sub-second intervals, and intervals longer than 1 second or even minutes. At the same time, while many studies find differences, some other studies find no difference between autistic individuals and typically developing individuals. And while probably most of the studies report decreased accuracy among autistic individuals, some other studies find superior timing capabilities among them. Usually, each study uses just one or two different timing paradigms, and for a better understanding of timing, there is a need for studies that would test the same individuals across a range of different tasks that reflect different aspects of time processing. And we tried to carry such study where we used 4 different experimental paradigms of time processing. The first one was motor task. It involved 3 tapping of button on a response pad using freely chosen rhythm. So they just tapped at a rhythm that they felt is comfortable to them, or slower or faster. In another task called simultaneity judgment task, participants had to report if 2 angry birds appearing on the screen appear at the same time or not. And sometimes they were simultaneously presented, and sometimes there was a delay between the appearance. In the auditory duration discrimination task, participants had to report which of the bottom dinosaurs, left or right, produced a shorter beep than the top dinosaur. And finally, in the verbal duration estimation task, which was carried out during the breaks between other tasks, participants had to report how long do they think they had to sit and wait between the tasks. And it was always 1.5 minutes, and in one of the subconditions there was a dull break, in another there were toys to play. We tested participants who were 8 to 15 years old, so children and adolescents. There were 17 autistic individuals and 18 typically developing children. Groups were matched by age and IQ. In addition to these 4 tasks, we asked parents to answer to the It's About Time scale that assesses children's time awareness and management in daily situations. Here are reports from the motor 3 tapping task. There was significant difference between the groups. Autistic individuals tapped faster than typically developing children, meaning that this natural rhythm that we chose was faster. The subjective motor typing was going faster to them. In the second task, simultaneity judgment, there were no group differences in the accuracy of perception of this event timing in visual modality, but when we compared the distribution of these individual thresholds, autistic children showed more variable thresholds, meaning that some of them performed much worse and some much better than typically developing children. In the third task, we found that thresholds were higher among autistic individuals when we were assessing duration of sub-second intervals, meaning that their performance on average was worse. But when we check the distribution of these thresholds, we can see that about half of autistic individuals performed better than control group, and another half performed worse than control group. So it's always very important to analyze the distributions of data. And there were no group differences when we tested intervals longer than 1 second. And finally, there were no group differences in the verbal duration estimation task. When we asked parents to assess time management skills and awareness of their children, autistic children received lower score regarding their subjective awareness of time in daily situations. But we don't know for sure if that reflects parents' attitudes or if children actually perform better when they need to manage with time situations. Probably it's both. And the final result I want to show is that when we compared all these behavioral indices of different timing tasks, they were significantly associated in autistic group, such as simultaneity thresholds correlated with tapping speed and so on. But task performances among typically developing children were never significantly correlated. They were independent. And we can conclude from this data that autistic and typically developing children differ in about half of the timing measures, at least of those that we tested, and group differences are more consistent in the sub-second, very brief range of intervals. And there is high variability of timing functions or distribution of responses in the autistic individual group. And autistic children tend to perform more consistently across different timing tasks. Their performance is usually correlated across different tasks compared to typically developing children. And our final conclusion and also hypothesis for the follow-up research that we would like to conduct is that perhaps autistic individuals tend to use more similar strategies when performing different tasks, or perhaps they recruit similar neural resources or brain functions when carrying different tasks, whereas typically developing children likely use different strategies, and hence the performance isn't associated across different tasks. Thank you for your attention, and I'll be waiting for your questions. Bye.